Okay guys, let's do the second part of this assignment with the green dress. We're going to illustrate her. I'm so excited. So we are, doing more and more sort of drawing exercises, and today we'll do this green dress, and we're going to use that template, the figure template that we talked about yesterday, which everybody should have printed out by now. Where did she go? Where did she go? Here she is. Okay, so this is a nice one. These are nice poses. What we're going to do here is use this to practice drawing. And, sorry, my camera's wobbling. This is a pretty straightforward front view, nice walking pose. But then the fun part is figuring out how this dress goes on this turned pose, which is a really good exercise for understanding how to position the center front. I'm going to take a piece of marker paper because I like the translucency of it. And I will put away my finished one, and I'm going to put my paper over here, and we're going to go ahead and draw the dress on this figure. Now, you guys just did this as a flat, and drawing the illustration on a front view isn't that much different, but what is going to be fun is getting the shading in place. Okay, so I'm actually going to pause the video. I'm going to get the outline of the dress, and I'm just going to talk you through a little bit of shading. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see, but I pulled out my little light box to do this. My light box is microscopic. It's probably, it's smaller than a piece of paper, but it gets the job done, and it was not expensive. So I actually really like it because it's just easy to use. Okay, so let me turn that off. I think I'm good there. I can probably see through it okay. Now, what I recommend you guys do here is practice your line quality as you are drawing her body. So I'm using a 2B just because it's my favorite, but if you really like the HB or the 4B, feel free to use whichever of those you want. And I'm going to go ahead and put in her arms. There's something too that kind of helps our brain get comfortable drawing when we trace, because we feel what it feels like. I heard a story, I'm trying to remember who the author was. I feel like it was Jack Kerouac, who wanted to write and didn't know how to get started, and so there was a book that he really liked, and he just transcribed the book. He rewrote it. He typed the words, one word after another, until he wrote the book, because he wanted to feel what it felt like for that author that he admired to write that book. I always think of that, and I thought that was so interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to double check that it was Jack Kerouac. Maybe it was somebody else who admired Jack Kerouac, and they were writing on the road so that they could know what it felt like to write that. Okay, my pencil is just giving me some nice shadow like that. I can just really use that reference photo and go off of the reference photo. Now, to do this, you have to have the reference photo, okay? You really want to reference that. You want to look at it. You want to see how the creases are going. And I'm doing this assignment because I want us to get some practice seeing how the creases go, putting in those lines, shading them in, see how the bust area stays a little bit brighter, see how the shadows are coming in on one side, and we'll just get some shading. You can put shading on her body if you want to or not. Either way is fine with me. Okay, let's do some, and I'm going to show you a finished one where I took more time. And I really was patient looking at where the highlights and the shadows are in this garment, because they are pretty true to what we learned about the core highlights and the shadows here. Okay, so we've got these little wrinkles radiating out. And when I look at each of these little wrinkles, what I'm seeing is that the under part is dark, above is light, and there's sort of a middle value in between each one. So let me see if I can achieve that here. I'm going to put sort of a middle value. I'm going to leave some brightness on top, and I'll get some extra dark underneath. And I'll just work my way around like that. Do we need to stay exactly true to the photo? No, I'm not going to overthink it, but I do want to get as much detail as I can. Now, up under here, there's definitely some shading from where that garment is blousing out over. And up along this little center detail, we can put some shadows deeper right in there, okay, where that's kind of casting a shadow for us. So take your time with this. Hopefully you'll kind of enjoy the process. In the classroom, this takes us, you know, it definitely takes this whole thing, the flats, pencil, then ink, then this is a full day. So if you're finishing this in an hour, you might not be blending and paying attention to your shadows as much as I would like you to start to really learn from this. As I get down towards the bottom, it becomes more solid. I felt like I needed another little highlight right in there. And we can get a little shadow in under her fingers, right there, right there, right there, all the way down. And then a little shading all the way down on her dress. Now, I will let you guys decide if you want to have some fun and do, you know, maybe a little bit of extra shading on, or sorry, extra fullness on the skirt. I'll show you some past demos that I've done in the classroom. This one is really pretty simple, more true to the garment. And then this one, I think I was just talking with the students about how to make it look more flowy if they were trying to design things like that, so we made it more flowy. Now this one I obviously took more time on, and you can see that I was much more patient with my shadows, with my details, and I like this one a lot better. I can even tell how I kept that little highlight right there, and it's more right there, and I also I don't know what's going on with me today. I need to sharpen my pencil more. I really don't like dull pencils. So keep your pencil nice and sharp and just work your way around, get some nice shading in there. And then do give her, you know, trace her head. I don't like her head though. I feel like she doesn't have any brains. I'm making the back of her head bigger. Whenever I do her, I am bothered by that head. Okay, so have fun with the hem. If you want to make it more flowy, just draw those drapey lines up there. I for sure want something that's going to aim for that one. Give it a couple more, okay? And then, like we learned, you can go ahead and do some little connectors at the bottom and then add in those shadows, okay? So that's the front view. Let's talk about how to do the side view. The first thing and the most important thing here, because this is going to come up when we illustrate for our collections. So the most important thing is that we identify her center line. Okay, I'm going to trace her so that you guys can see her body. Her hands are decent, so that's another good thing that you can trace. I don't love some of her anatomy though. The longer I do this, you guys, the more I start to really pay attention to anatomy, and I try to take regularly. I don't want to say burnt out on it, but before I was teaching this so much, I used to do life drawing classes. Every maybe year or two, I would take a life drawing class just to keep myself in practice, because it's just a great way to brush up your skills. Okay, so, oh hi, hang on a sec. Okay, that was Miss Cunningham. She's so nice. Okay, so really, 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 really important, guys, is to mark the center line. So I can see they've drawn for me her bust on this side. I can see her collarbones. So they've given me a clue. If I were to outline her center line, and I can see her crotch too, if I were to outline her center line, her belly button is probably right there, okay? Draw that in lightly so that you know where everything needs to be based off of, because once you know that you need to come in and put that twist so that it twists over her neck right there, okay? This side's gonna look really tiny and this side's gonna look a lot longer because of the rotation. Okay, see if I can clean that up a little bit, make it a little bit better here. Give her a brain, she needs a brain. Okay, and then here's this part for the back. We're gonna go over and down, and the twist part, I'm not gonna see too much there. Hang on, my little eraser's broken. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right, that should do it. And let me get the other side. So the other side is, again, coming from this little twist, and it's just aiming right there for her bust. So this is shoulder, and this is the dress. And then you can come in and you can put some little wrinkles, and you can have some fun with your shading. Now, I'm going to erase the line there for her bust, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make sure that as I'm drawing these little drapey lines, they are not connecting over the bust, because that's where the garment basically has been sort of filled out and pushed up by her her bust area. So we're not going to have a lot of shadow there, and by leaving it bright, it helps us understand that there's a volume there. Okay, And then I needed to do the waist part here. Whoops. Now, obviously, we don't have this pose, okay? So we're kind of working from our imagination a little bit to figure out what's going to happen with this garment in this pose. And that's the challenge, but it's also, I think, really good practice to just kind of think about, okay, I understand the garment. Let me try to draw it on this pose so we can think about how it would look and how that might show off the garment. And that's really a lot of what fashion illustration is all about. All right, so we'll put some more shadows in there, shadows in there. I can come in, I can make this a little bit more bumpy and pull my shadows from those bumps, All right, and then details on the neck, etc. Now for the little drapey part in the front, that little fall down the front, she's turned, guys, she's turned. So I'm gonna make it go from here to here. It would look really weird if it wasn't located correctly. Now, you can kind of decide if you want it to fall inside her leg or if you want it to kind of be pulled, because her knee's probably pulling it open. So maybe it's gonna open just a little bit like that, okay? And then her back hip and then down. And then we're gonna just take our time and get those nice radiating drape lines and put in our shadows, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just for you guys to compare. I have so many past demos of this. I'm going to place a couple of them up on the screen so that you guys can take a look, see what you like, see what you don't like. Feel free to take inspiration from how I've shaded these. Let me find some other ones. Let's see. Oh, here was a fun one where I must have used a different croquis template, and I gave her a face and I gave her a handbag. I don't know why. This one I think is better. And then I guess that's all I have right now. Do I have another? There's one more right here. Ignore her. She's coming later. Okay. So yeah, if you want to put a face and hair, feel free. Okay, so that is your other assignment. Go ahead and take photos of that, turn that in. And guys, I want you to save this. I want you to save her with the pencil shading along with the flats that are inked. And if you happen to print out the green dress, this is a fantastic portfolio spread to show that you understand not only the flat, but you can translate it to an illustration. Like all these things together next to each other in your portfolio are just fantastic to have. Okay, so don't lose these. These are going to be great. Okay, thanks everybody. I'll see you in the next video.